welcome to the Techstrong AI podcast. I'm Amanda Razani, and I'm excited today to have Jacob Lorvigen. He is the CEO of Neurologics. How are you doing today?
Very good. Very good. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you for being on our show. And our topic of the day is AI models. And you said recently that AI model collapse, you believe it mirrors how our historical narratives have been influenced by religious and political forces. So can you share that a little bit with our audience? What do you mean by that?
Yeah. Well, Amanda, when I think about AI model collapse, I often compare it to historical shifts shaped by religion and politics. Because if you look back at pivotal moments in history like Reformation and the Enlightenment, these weren't just shifts in power, they were paradigm shifts in how we understood the world. So similarly to what's happening with AI right now and the collapse of old models, is that we have absorbed all the knowledge from all time that has been written and try to kind of collect all that to train the general general AI models, and then at the same time we want them to kind of be adjusted for how we see the world today, not being biased, not being too radical, and not being too opinionated. But at the same time, that might be that might be what most people think, or most people's opinion or view of the world, although it might not be correct. So as we kind of filter it through kind of, what we believe is useful, and we're producing that much more content, just like with the internet, with all the media outlets that was suddenly made available. A lot more content was written by people who were not journalistically trained or did not, look up sources, etc. The same way, when they get filtered through and so much more content is produced, and the AI starts to absorb that content again, it becomes, a reinforcement. So it's not because I think it's so dangerous. We just need to be aware that at some point it's just not going to get any better, and it's going to get watered out. Where I see kind of a huge advantage is where we want to empower people to do things they couldn't do before, and we can start making use of when we do steer the outputs, and introduce a regime where where we need to put up more control and testing, like in legal or like in software that we have introduced with Henrik AI. Then when we're empowering a talent and make me build software or make you as good as a paralegal, we actually do want to add those somewhat guardrails or synthetic data processing, so that the outcome is predictable. So we can ask for an outcome, and we get an outcome that we can test and say, well, this was what I expected. This is what a contract for a rental lease should look like. Or I want an application for food delivery. Yes, it's got all the elements that is required for a food delivery app. And then there's obviously some creativity around, how the design looks in an application, or you could say the language in a contract. But in essence, there is a right or wrong. So there's so much more we can do with synthetic data now when we have, trained the general models.
So with synthetic data, when it comes to training, what are some tips or advice you have for business leaders that are trying to ensure that their AI is trained well and trying to avoid the bias?
Yeah, I mean, one of the main challenges developing purpose-driven AI is aligning the AI with the real-world needs. AI can't just be generating code or performing isolated tasks. It has to be about solving the actual problems that people face. With Henrik AI, we addressed this by integrating, AI agents that are trained across multiple disciplines, what we call our disciplinary metrics, which is the framework that we spent about 2 years building. This framework ensures that the AI understands the context of what it's building. whether that's regulatory compliance, user experience, scalability. So it's not just about, in our sake, building software. It's about building something that's reliable and usable. So you can say it requires a high level of domain expertise in both, you could say, training and organizing and testing the output.
We hear a lot about centers of excellence and different focus groups when it comes to training AI. What do you see as the future of training AI? And do you think groups like this are helping?
No, absolutely. I mean, for a legal AI, I don't think that could be trained by somebody who, by a group of people that had no experience within, legal work. I believe that while you are putting the application into use, it's super beneficial to have, legal experts on the sideline to either offer, final improvement if it's needed by the user, or and constantly testing the data, making corrections, building scenarios that kind of pushes the limits. And I think that will, continue to happen over time. There's been, some talk about we're in the future there won't be the need of software developers. I see it quite differently. I think we need, more software developers, but similar to journalists today, and like yourself, there'll be so much outlet of opinion, or in our case, software, that the scale will kind of multiply by millions, and the software developers will then be the expert that is required when you need something that is when we need to innovate in fields that is pushing the boundaries of software, or compliance is needed, checks and balances, etc. So you still need, these curators in the world of something, created by AI. So I see new and more exciting roles for people who are domain experts today, and I definitely believe that when it comes to building, these specialized AI and AI platforms, then they should be built by people with the right level of experience to achieve the outcome that we are the optimal outcome. So it's that synergy.
Well, this technology, we've seen it advance so rapidly. When it comes to AI and future use cases with AI, what do you see? And are we anywhere close to AI hitting the age of singularity and being just as intelligent as humans?
No, not at all. But it will become our assistant going forward. I also don't believe that we'll. I'm very optimistic around AI. I don't believe we'll ever see kind of Terminators running around trying to take us out. It's a fluid process. No, it's a fluid process like everything else has been. I mean, a fun example. I mean, I think I was 5 when I saw a movie where the main character was speaking to an AI, having a conversation. That was obviously my biggest dream by then. So I was super excited when suddenly you could have like a real voice conversation with an AI that felt somewhat natural. But that lasted for about 5 minutes, and that was it. Because the novelty wears off quite quickly. And I think where, just like, say, internet, I mean, if you don't have it, you can't live without it. But in your day-to-day life, you don't really think about that it's there. I mean, I wouldn't be able to find myself, figure out driving around in London, New York, or even San Francisco for that sake without navigation. That requires internet. But then again, it's not kind of, overwhelming my life. And I think AI will be the same thing. It will be a natural assistant that makes me capable of to do things I couldn't do before. And who knows, if we look into the future, and if Elon is successful in kind of extending our brain capabilities with synthetic brain cells, and we can hook that up to AI, will there then be kind of a a funny motion at some point where we don't really know whether we're using our synthetic or our biological brain to solve tasks. But even then, it would probably be something that feels quite fluent. I don't think it will, take over our lives, but obviously, as we get older, it will seem weirder to us. But for new generations, it will be absolutely natural. I mean, anyone born today will grow up with AI and not think that it's never not existed, and it will be a natural tool. So.
Yeah, I believe that is going to be the case. So if there was one key takeaway that you could leave our audience with today, what would that be?
That AI has the power to democratize innovation. And with Henrik AI, we're lowering the barriers to entry so that anyone can build software, create solutions, and solve real-world problems without being limited by technical skills or resources. So this is about empowering people to turn their ideas into reality at scale with the power of AI.
Wonderful. Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your insights with us today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
And thank you to our audience. Stay tuned. There's a lot more coming up.